We are always the observer. But sometimes we identify with the event so much so that we even lose the aspect of the observer. That's why the materialist gets totally lost and thinks that we could do without the observer.
The physics data tells us that an object itself is really a simplification for what we call out there. One is particularly when we're looking at atomic and subatomic particles or atomic and subatomic matter in any form. What we find is how we go to look at it, what we choose to examine it with, actually changes the properties of what we observe to be out there.
Mathematics shows us clearly that the movement of objects are describable only in terms of possibilities, not the actual events that happens in our experience. Quantum physics calculates only possibilities. But if we accept this, then the question immediately comes, what chooses among these possibilities to bring the actual event of experience? So we directly, immediately see that consciousness must be involved. The observer cannot be ignored. Observer is part of the description of the world, but the observer is not included in quantum physics. We can only describe the objects, not the subject. So we get the idea that the subject must be more fundamental than the objects. Consciousness is more fundamental.
We don't know in quantum mechanics how to hook ourselves as observers up with the world. We don't know how to treat ourselves as observers as just another part of the physical system that we're describing. The only way we know how to do quantum mechanics as it's traditionally formulated is to keep the observer outside of the system you're describing. The minute you put him in, you get all these paradoxes. And we're forced to say things in quantum mechanics like, look, the book is doing what it's doing because of quantum mechanics, and I see that because I'm there and I see it, and you better not try to analyze that second part of the sentence in terms of applying quantum mechanics to it because it's going to break down. That's why there are these two separate laws of the evolutions of physical systems. One that applies when you're not looking at them, the other that applies when you are. But that's crazy.
There's no way that we're ever going to mathematize or put into mathematical formula this very act in which a conscious observer comes up with the answer. People say, oh, the measuring instruments, the recorder records it, and there it is, it's on the tape, it's recorded. You forgot one part of the equation. Somebody has to look at the tape. And until somebody looks at the tape, it ain't recorded at all. Until there's an ear, there is no sound in the forest.
The extreme view would be idealism, Bishop Berkeley and the Hindu approach, which says that consciousness is all there is. And that all there is my consciousness. I'm creating you and the camera and the world around me, and all there is me. But that is a view that's impossible to refute, because I can't really prove that you are out there in reality and have your own consciousness, and you can't prove that I'm conscious. So idealism, both from the Western standpoint, from what Bishop Berkeley said, and the Hindu tradition, is one possibility. Another possibility, the Copenhagen interpretation says we create reality by an observation collapses the wave function. The problem with that is it doesn't say what observation is. It doesn't say what consciousness is. Why is our brain different from a measuring device or anything else? And it kind of puts consciousness outside science. So my view is somewhere in the middle with the Penrose objective reduction, where you have a superposition which reaches threshold and self-collapses and chooses a reality at that point of a number. It's kind of a multiple choice. It's not like starting from scratch anything you want. It's a multiple choice of multiple possibilities for each specific collapse. But the beauty is, according to, this is one of Roger's great contributions, I think, is that he said the Platonic information embedded in the fundamental level of the universe helps to choose or influences which choice is made. And this only occurs in the objective reduction. So if you make a conscious choice, if you're mindful about it and don't act rashly, or reflexively, maybe think about it and allow yourself to be influenced by what you want to call instinct or intuition or your higher power, or the way of the Tao, or may the force be with you, however you want to put it, the quantum information embedded at the Planck scale will influence your decision one way or the other for the good, generally. So it's kind of a way of bringing in some kind of spiritual divine guidance, if you will.
One of the important innovations of quantum mechanics is that a certain fantasy that held in physics up until then about the possibility of observing something entirely passively, observing it without affecting it in the process of observing it. However things turn out, it's fairly clear now that quantum mechanics will have ended that permanently. Looking at things involves interacting with them, and it involves interacting with them in a way whose effect can't be minimized, no matter how delicate your technology is.
Ultimately, science says we have an influence on the observed. Strict separability, strict objectivity, where we can stand back and observe nature without really entering into nature and even modifying nature. That strict separability is no longer possible. We understand that now from quantum mechanics. At the very core of life, the very foundation of experience, it's all created by consciousness. The very earliest experience, the beginning of the universe, you could say, is when pure consciousness, the unified field, seeing itself, creates within its essentially unified nature the threefold structure of observer, observed, and process of observation. From that, at that deepest level of reality, consciousness creates creation.
The observer does have a tremendous impact on what reality is all about. And because of how consciousness works for us as human beings, because of the possible effects that consciousness may have on things that are out there in the world, we can see that there is some relationship between what is observed and what the observer is doing. So if in that regard the observer has the ability to affect what is being observed, then yes, there is some way in which the observer can ultimately impact or affect the thing that you are in fact trying to look at.
When you are not looking, electron can be here, can be there, or can be over there in the corner of this room. But whenever we look, we always find them to be in one Geiger counter.